Okay. So again, it's not something most of you will do anymore, but at least you've seen it. So when I say something about it, or somebody says something about it, watch an old style movie, you'll at least say, hey, I recognize that. We're going to do real quick the first one of the sections. More talking, but on the worksheet, you only have 2 questions on it, and neither one of them is math related. The second section, we will get a little bit more into detail. There will be math. Check writing process again. Check writing process is straightforward. Again, you probably will never do this, but it's just something you got to know this, so you don't look silly when somebody asks you to fill one out. You can use these same things on a money order. Remember, a check is a contract, a paper document. It's directing the bank, basically telling the bank, hey, give these people money. And it is a contract. You can go to jail if you write a check and there's no money to back it up. There's actually been people that what they've done is they've gone online and printed checks from online and filled them out and mailed them in.
Check frauds.
It's check fraud, yes. Theft by check. You can go to jail for this. So you need to make sure.
Oh, I know.
You know somebody had?
Yeah, she's still a teacher.
What?
She's still a teacher. I don't know.
Oh, she's still a teacher at Ivan?
Yeah, I don't know how. Don't even look at me.
Who's that?
But it is a felony if the amount of the check is enough. So understand you can go to jail.
Which one is that? The English teacher? The bigger white lady?
No, she's not bigger.
Okay, this is a check. Please, I'm not trying to be sarcastic about it. This is a check. On the check, if you've ever seen one, in the upper left-hand corner, this is where you put your personal information. When I was first starting to get checks in junior high, my grandfather gave it as a Christmas present. Congratulations, here's a check. They actually ask you to put your social security number up there. And then they realize that's not really a good idea. Then they ask you to put your driver's license number up there. Well, at the time, Oklahoma was using the driver's license, your social security for the driver's license number. So again, they changed it. Oklahoma decided not to do that, and we got a new driver's license number, but they asked you to put some sort of identification number up there. And then when you gave the check to people, if they didn't have your driver's license number up there, they would write it down. If they had social security, they'd just write something up there. So that would be your personal information, who you are, whatever. Over here is the date. They used to not have the 20, but because in the 1900s, in the dark ages, they just left it, they had 19. And then when they went to the 2000s, they changed it over. But this is the date. Again, a lot of times they don't put it as this. They just put it up as put the date. Okay? You can write it out or whatever. Paid in the order is who is the check going to? Don't leave that blank because anybody can take it and write their name in there. If you're going into the bank, a lot of people would write the word cash up there. If you wanted to cash it with the bank, put your cell phones up, please. So again, it's up there, but that is who you go to. Now, again, if you're writing a check to somebody, make sure they have an ID that backs that up. So if you write Bubba Joe, and they don't have an ID that shows that they are Bubba Joe, they ain't cashing that check, not legally at least. So write something up there that they have an ID they can cash with. This amount here is this is where we're coming with this first section we're gonna do here. This is the amount of the check written as a number. Just the way you write it as a number, whatever, decimal, whole works. Down here is the same number, supposed to be the same number as this, but it's written as words. Now, we had a bank lady come in here a couple of years ago for life skills, and she was talking about this, and she was talking about deposits and withdrawals and stuff like this. She said if the numbers do not agree, they always go to the written by word. So if you write $100 here, 100 here, and then you write, for whatever reason, you write 1,000 over here, okay? They're gonna go with 1,000. Because written word takes precedence over number of words. So make sure they agree, but if they don't agree, they're going with the words, is what the bank lady said. Again, you should always make sure they agree anyway, but make sure if they don't, they're going with the, whatever, doesn't matter the harder. This is where you put your legal signature. And if you, and I know they do not teach cursive in a lot of schools anymore. Has anybody here never written in cursive? You guys at least know how to write in cursive? Some of the newer, younger kids do not, you don't know how to write in cursive?
Not even know how to, you know?
Say what?
No.
Did you ever learn how to write it? Okay.
None of us probably have.
And again, a lot of people,
It's like teaching it on second grade.
yeah, my 7-year-old grandson, we taught him.
Oh,
I mean, but we taught him. The school did not, we taught him. But if you don't know in cursive, you need to come up with a signature that you can use on legal documents. I had a guy I worked with, I'm not gonna say he's a friend, just somebody I knew, and we weren't in the same company. He was in one company and I was in another, but I knew him. But his legal signature was that. That was all he did for some legal signature. His name was Craig. So that was his legal signature.
that's like my dad. My dad's literally like.
And I mean, you can, whatever, whenever I initial things and you've seen it, you know, my initials are that. But I mean, that's not my legal signature, that's just initials. But have something that you can use that is yours. When you go to a bank, they're gonna give you a signature card and you have to put your legal signature on that card. And then when you fill out documents, they're gonna look at that card and make sure it agrees with what you write down. So have something that's yours. It doesn't matter what it is, just have something that's yours. Cursive used to take the place, but if you do printing, that's fine. I had a student 15, 16 years ago, he used to write in ancient Viking ruins, you know, rune language. He was writing that. That was his signature. I mean, something that's you, that's all you're required to do. This is the memo block. It is not, it's for you to write notes to yourself for what this check is about. You know, tax deductible for the house, the car, whatever. But remember, the check is a legal document now. Nobody writes checks anymore, I understand, but they had this happened about 40 or 50 years ago. A guy was buying a refrigerator freezer from Sears, and I know Sears is no longer open, but Sears got some great stuff when it was open. But because of that, he got tired of making monthly payments, mailing in the check once a month. So as a joke, he actually wrote paid in full. And he mailed the check off. And in those days, when the check was processed, the bank would mail it back to you. So you'd have a stack of checks that you would get in the mail. They were processed or now they just, if they do it at all, they'll give you a photocopy of it. They don't send the original. But in those days, they used to send the original check. So he got it back from the bank, having processed, paid in full, was still written on there, and it was accepted by the company. Well, when he got the bill from the company the next month to mail in the payment, he took a copy of it and said, hey, paid in full, you accepted it. It actually made it through court, and the court backed him up and said, it's a legal contract, you accepted it. So there for a while, people were trying that all, and banks and businesses were sending it back, I'm not gonna accept it. So I understand, it's a legal contract. But if you screw up and mess up and whatever, they don't have to accept the check, they just say, send me a good check. This is what I'm talking about right here. This is if they get a hold of your check, and this is why those people online keep wanting you to, I'll send you a check for $1 million, all you gotta do is send me back one for 1,500. They want your check. Because the check has all the routing information. This would be the check number. They have the routing information, which says which bank it came from, and they have your account number. So they can steal you blind. Good guy does stuff like this. So that's why you never send a check to somebody you don't know. And I know nobody here does checks anymore, but because they can steal you blind. So this is a check. Now, what we're going to do on this, and it's not hard, we're going to touch on this and we're going to go straight into the next section. So this is actually two worksheets in one. The first two questions at the top are 4.2. And then you start over with number one again, then we start on 4.3, which is the actual part we don't have math. Okay, the first one up at the top is straightforward. I give you the numbers, I ask you to write it in words. And then the number two, I give you the words and ask you to write it as numbers. In math, words mean something. Okay, if I give the word and, if I'm getting, I know you've heard people say this when they're given a big number. If you use the word and you're listing numbers, as soon as you say the word and, that's a decimal. So 10,352. 10,352. That's that. Okay, so understand, words mean stuff. You just can't use the word and in a sentence when you're talking numbers, because that's a decimal. So question number one on the top, 26.55, it would be 26 and 55 100ths, so 26 and 55. Okay, $26.55 100ths. Okay, so that, and then on question two, where you see the word and, that's a dot. Whenever you see a fraction over 100, remember, nickels, dimes, and pennies are a fraction of 100. So on question number two, 30.20, because it's 20 cents, 21 hundredths of a dollar. Okay. The next part is the math part. Again, nobody uses this anymore. My son, and I understand why they don't, because you can just, most people can just log on to the computer, the website for the bank, and just get the information immediately. But having said that, like we talked about earlier, ATMs sometimes will charge you a fee. So you need to make sure that this is a recommendation that you keep track of every bit of activity you do in the bank. This is a check register. It's actually a book that's divided like this, and you fold it in half. And you keep it with your checks. It's probably not a bad idea to keep one of these, even if you don't have a checkbook, because you can keep track of all your stuff. About 10, 12 years ago, my wife and I went to Carl's Jr. to get a burger using plastic. Their internet was down. And they told us when we went in, they said, we cannot accept any purchases using debit cards for more than $25 because our internet's down. So the reason I mention this is we went ahead and purchased the 2 burgers and whatever, and it took 2 or 3 days for their internet to come up. And until their internet came up, that $25 we had purchased with, it was still out in the netherworld. And then suddenly when their internet came up, it purchased 2 or 3 days later. Well, if we had forgotten, and guys, I'm old now, if we had forgotten about the $25, we would not have realized we'd made the purchase because it just didn't show up for a couple of days, and we may have overdrafted. So that's why you have a register. Keep track of what you do. But on a register, each line is a separate math formula. So what it is the balance is what I had at the time. Debit is I'm making a purchase. I'm making a check. I'm making a payment. It's coming out of my account. So what I would do is I take the 5/20/25 and subtract the 89.99 and put the new balance here. Minus new balance here. Credit means I'm putting money into the account. So I would take whatever's here, add the balance here. So on the handout that we gave you, it says the balance on the first one is $625.39. So on question number 1 at the bottom, you start off with $625. 39. And then they're both deposits, so you're gonna add 875.80. Add another 1427.
It's 15, 15, 46,
That's the total there. 1515.
46.
That sounds right. Again, I don't have this stuff all committed in memory, but I know about the ballpark of what it was. So in the first blank where it says balance, you're gonna do that. And then from there, you're gonna pick up and you're gonna subtract. So you're gonna subtract for the second part of it. And then your final answer on number one is gonna be here.
4, 8, 7, 46.
That's right, but check that. I'm not saying you're wrong. 0.76, you said? 487.
26.
26, okay. So you gotta get the whole thing in order. But that's, remember, the final answer has gotta be at the last line, and you just one line. And again, there's no algebra, there's no staple. If you got questions, I'll answer them, but that's it, guys. And this is it for today, by the way.
Hey, we'll get my phone from Morton's class.
Why did you leave it in her class?
Because I didn't have to bring a charge to my phone.
See, if you don't use